Imagine for a second that you are a business owner. But I don't want you to picture yourself as Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. You aren't visionaries reinventing the wheel. You aren't launching rockets or designing the next iPhone. You are someone who has poured your blood, sweat, and tears into a product. You wake up before the sun, you go to bed after midnight, and you are ready to sell. You've done everything right. Your product is perfect. But here's the catch. You have absolutely zero power to set the price. None. If you charge even one single rupee more than your neighbor, you sell nothing. Zero revenue. Your inventory sits there and rots. If you charge less, you're just voluntarily throwing money away because you could have sold it all at the higher price. Anyway, you are completely 100% at the mercy of the market. Now, be honest with me, does that sound like a nightmare or does that sound like an economist dream?
It sounds like a bit of both, honestly. It's a nightmare for the ego. I mean, we all like to think we have control, but it is an absolute dream for the math. What you were describing is the bedrock of economic theory. It is the concept of perfect competition. It is an idealized state, and, while it might be rare to find it in its purest, most sterile form in the real world, it provides the mathematical skeleton for understanding how every single business operates, from the small subsistence farmer in Vidarbha to the global conglomerate trading on Wall Street.
And that is exactly our mission today. We are peeling back the layers of Chapter 4 of the Class 12 NCERT Microeconomics book titled The Theory of the Firm Under Perfect Competition. And folks, I want to be clear right off the bat. This isn't just dry theory. We aren't just going to recite definitions. This is the logic that governs supply, profit, and survival in the market. If you want to understand why prices fluctuate, why businesses go bust, or how government taxes actually hit the ground, you need this chapter.
Precisely. We're going to decode the logic of the supply curve and understand the ruthless rationality that drives a firm to produce or to shut down the factory completely. We're going to see how a simple graph can explain the difference between a thriving economy and a recession.
Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of revenue curves and profit maximization, we have some very important housekeeping. This deep dive is explicitly brought to you by Simplified UPSC by PPP. We are taking these dense academic texts and turning them into gold for your preparation. We know how hard it is to slog through these books alone, so we're doing the heavy lifting for you.
And if you are finding value in this, if these deep dives are helping you connect the dots between the NCERTs and the actual demands of the exam, we have a small request. It's a simple one, but it really, really matters.
Right now, before we dive into the graphs, please hit that subscribe button. It makes a huge difference. And we have to ask, if you are capable, and only if you are capable, please support us on Patreon. This support is literally the fuel that keeps these deep dives coming. It pays for the research, the recording, the editing, everything.
A massive, heartfelt shout out to all our current supporters. You are the reason we can take the time to break down these complex topics. You are effectively the producers of this show.
Absolutely. And engaging with the content helps the algorithm find other learners like you. So like the video and share your valuable comments. We actually read them. Tell us what you think. Argue with us. Give us feedback. It all helps.
Also, for those who want the hard materials, because listening is great, but revision requires text, the free notes for this session, along with practice previous year questions or PYQs, are available right now on our public Telegram channel.
But if you are a serious aspirant and you want to organize your prep, we have the private Telegram library. This gives you access to all the videos of the series at once, plus premium notes. We're talking detailed notes, extra PYQs, and this is the big one model mains answers. We basically hand you the structure for your exam answers.
To join that, just DM us on the public Telegram channel and we will get you sorted. It's the best investment you can make for your economics prep.
Okay, business aside, let's get down to business. Set the scene for us. What are we looking at today?
We are analyzing the specific NCERT text, Chapter 4, but we are not doing it in a vacuum. We are going to link it to the broader demands of the UPSC General Studies papers. We have source material here ranging from the 2013 GS3 paper on corporate social responsibility to the 2025 GS1 paper on resource distribution. We are going to show you that microeconomics isn't a silo, it's the foundation for everything else.
So we're connecting the dots from the textbook to the exam hall. I love it. Let's start with section 4.1. The text starts with a pretty intense assumption. It says economists assume the firm is a ruthless profit maximizer. That sounds a bit villainous, doesn't it? Like we're discussing a cartoon bad guy rather than a shopkeeper.
It does sound a bit cold, doesn't it? Ruthless.
Yeah.
It conjures up images of Dickensian factory owners. But in the language of economics, it's not a moral judgment. It's a simplifying assumption. The text admits that this is somewhat unreasonable in the real world because companies have other goals. Maybe they want to build a legacy. Maybe they care about the environment. Or maybe the CEO just wants to hire his nephew. But to build a predictive model, we need a constant. We assume the firm has one single goal: to maximize the difference between total revenue and total cost.
So no charity, no good vibes, just the gap between what comes in and what goes out.
Exactly. It simplifies the world so we can predict behavior. If a firm isn't trying to make the most profit possible, the mathematical models we're about to discuss fall apart. We need that North Star of profit to predict which way the firm will move when prices change or taxes rise. If the firm acts randomly, we can't have a science of economics.
Okay, so we have this ruthless firm, but where does it operate? The chapter defines perfect competition with two main features. The first one is homogeneous goods. That's a fancy phrase.
Right. Homogeneous means undifferentiated. Think about a bar of soap. If you buy a luxury brand, you're paying for the scent, the packaging, the brand status. That is not perfect competition. In perfect competition, a bar of soap is just soap. Or better yet, think of wheat.
Wheat is a great example. If I'm a baker buying flour, I don't really care if the wheat came from farmer A or farmer B as long as the quality is the standard. It's just wheat. It's completely fungible.
Exactly. And the first implication of that, there is no brand loyalty. Consumers don't care who they buy from, which means no producer can charge a premium for their name. You can't put a Supreme logo on a grain of wheat and charge double. The market just won't bear it.
Which leads us to the second and probably the most important feature. The firm is a price taker. I used the drop in the ocean analogy in the intro. Can we unpack that?
Sure. Imagine the ocean volume is the total market supply. Millions of tons of wheat. If you add one drop of water, that's your firm's output. Does the sea level rise?
Not noticeably. Not even measurable.
Exactly. In perfect competition, there are so many buyers and so many sellers that no single individual can influence the price. The market determines the price based on total supply and demand.
Yeah.
You, as the firm, just look at the ticker tape, see the prices say 10 rupees, and you take it. You don't get to negotiate.
The logic here is brutal. The text says if a firm raises the price even a little bit,
They sell zero. Because the goods are homogeneous, identical, and consumers have perfect information, why would I pay you 11 rupees for wheat when I can get the exact same wheat from your neighbor for 10? I wouldn't. I'm rational. So you lose your entire market share instantly.
and if I lower the price to 9 rupees?
You could sell everything you produce, sure, but you could also sell everything you produce at 10 rupees. So by lowering the price, you are just voluntarily giving up revenue. It's irrational. You are leaving money on the table for no reason. So you stick to the market price. You're a price taker.
And it's important to note, the text mentions buyers are price takers too.
Yes. No single buyer is big enough to demand a discount. It goes both ways. If I go to the wheat market and say I'll only pay 9, the sellers will just ignore me because there are a million other buyers willing to pay 10.
Okay, so we are in the arena. We are ruthless. We are selling identical wheat, and we have no control over the price. Now let's talk about the money. Section 4.2 focuses on revenue.
Right. We need to understand the math of money coming in. We have 3 key terms here: total revenue, TR, average revenue, AR, and marginal revenue, MR.
Let's start with total revenue. The formula is pretty straightforward. Price times quantity, TR equals P times Q.
Simple enough. But for visual learners, picture figure 4.1 in your head. We have output on the x-axis and revenue on the y-axis. Because the price is constant, the total revenue curve is a straight line sloping upwards starting from the origin.
It starts at 0 because if you sell 0 wheat, you make 0 money.
Correct. And the slope of that line, this is key. The steepness of that line is the market price. If the price is high, the line is steep. You make money faster. If the price is low, the line is flatter.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's look at the price line, which connects to the demand curve facing the firm. In figure 4.2, this is described as a horizontal straight line.
This is a critical distinction that trips up a lot of students. The market demand curve might slope downwards, meaning people buy more wheat globally when it's cheap. But the demand curve facing the individual firm is horizontal.
Because of the price taker concept.
Exactly. It is perfectly elastic. You can sell quantity 1 at price P. You can sell quantity 100 at price P. You can sell quantity 1,000 at price P. The price doesn't drop just because you produce more. So the line goes straight across. It's infinite demand at that specific price.
Now let's decode the acronym SOUP, AR and MR.
AR is average revenue, revenue per unit. If you sell 10 boxes for 100 rupees, your average revenue is 10. In perfect competition, average revenue always equals price. AR equals P. It's a tautology, really.
Okay. And initial marginal revenue.
Marginal in economics always means the extra bit, or the next one. Marginal revenue is the extra money you get from selling one more unit.
So if I sell my 10th box of candles,
You get the market price, say 10 rupees. If you sell the 11th box, how much extra do you get?
10 rupees.
Exactly. Because you don't have to lower the price to sell more, the extra revenue is always just the price. So we have this beautiful aha moment in perfect competition. Price equals average revenue equals marginal revenue. P equals AR equals MR.
That is unique to this market structure, right?
Yes. In a monopoly, for example, to sell more, you have to lower the price so your marginal revenue actually drops faster than the price. But here, it's a flat line. Makes the math much cleaner.
Okay, so we know what money is coming in. Now comes the biggest question of the chapter. Section 4.3. Profit maximization. How much should we actually produce? We want to make as much money as possible.
This is the core technical segment. The goal is to maximize pi, which represents profit. Pi equals TR minus TC, total revenue minus total cost. The text outlines 3 specific conditions that must be met for a firm to be maximizing profit at a positive output level.
Let's break them down one by one. Condition 1 is P equals MC, price equals marginal cost.
Right, think about it logically. Marginal cost is the cost to produce one more unit. Let's say the market price for a chair is 500 rupees. If it costs you 300 rupees to make the next chair, that's your labor, wood, electricity for that specific chair, should you make it?
Definitely. I spend 300, I get 500, I make 200 profit.
Exactly. You are leaving money on the table if you don't make it. So you keep producing. Now, suppose you ramp up production, your factory gets crowded, people are bumping into each other, and the cost to make the next chair rises to 600 rupees. Should you make that one?
No. I'd spend 600 to earn 500. I'd lose 100 rupees.
Correct. So you produce as long as price is greater than MC. You stop when MC exceeds price. Therefore, the sweet spot, the equilibrium, is exactly where price equals marginal costs. That is the point of no return.
That seems intuitive, but then there is condition 2. Marginal cost must be non-decreasing, or basically the MC curve must be rising. Why can't it be falling?
This is a subtle point shown in figure 4.3. Imagine a point where price equals MC, but the MC curve is going down. That means if you produce one more unit, the cost of that unit will be lower than the previous one.
Which means the gap between price and cost would get even bigger.
Exactly. If costs are falling, every extra unit is becoming more profitable. You would never stop there. You would keep expanding until the costs start rising again. So profit maximization can only happen on the rising limb of the marginal cost curve. The falling part is just the warm-up.
Got it. So we need PMC and we need MC to be going up. Now, condition 3. This is the shutdown condition. This sounds dramatic.
It is. This is about survival. The condition states that price must be greater than or equal to average cost. But we have to split this into short run and long run.
Okay, let's do short run first. The text says price must be greater than or equal to average variable cost, AVC. Why variable cost? Why are we ignoring the fixed costs?
This relies on the sunk cost principle. In the short run, your fixed costs, like the rent for your factory or the loan on your machinery, are already paid or committed. You can't get that money back. Whether you produce 0 units or 1,000,000 units, the rent is gone.
So don't cry over spilt milk.
Exactly. You only look at the variable costs, the raw materials, the electricity, the wages. If the price of the product is 10 rupees and the materials to make it cost 8 rupees, your AVC, you are making 2 rupees contribution towards your rent. You are still losing money overall, perhaps, but you are losing less money than if you produced nothing and just paid the full rent.
But if the price is 10 rupees and the materials cost 12 rupees,
then for every unit you make, you lose 2 rupees on top of the rent you already paid. You are digging the hole deeper. In that case, you shut down immediately, you produce 0.
So in the short run, the floor is the average variable cost. What about the long run?
In the long run, there are no fixed costs. Leases expire, machines can be sold, workers can be fired, all costs are variable, so the condition tightens. Price must be greater than or equal to the total average cost, or AC. If you can't cover all your costs, including rent and machinery over the long haul, you exit the industry. You pack up and go home.
This logic allows us to actually draw the supply curve, doesn't it? Section 4.4 derives the supply curve from these cost curves.
It does, and this is a major takeaway for the listeners. The supply curve of a firm isn't just some random line drawn by a professor. It is the marginal cost curve. They are the same thing, with one caveat.
But not the whole curve.
Right, not the whole curve. In the short run, looking at figure 4.7, the supply curve is the rising part of the marginal cost, or SMC curve, above the minimum average variable cost.
Then what about the part below that minimum?
Below that minimum, the supply is zero. So the supply curve actually looks like a vertical line going up the price axis, representing zero output, until it hits the minimum AVC, and then it jumps onto the MC curve and rides it upwards.
It has a gap.
Yes, a discontinuity. And in the long run, as in figure 4.9, it's the same logic. It's the rising part of the long-run marginal cost, or LRMC, curve above the minimum long-run average cost, or LRAC.
This brings us to two critical points mentioned in the text, the shutdown point and the break-even point.
The shutdown point is that minimum level we just discussed. Min AVC in the short run, min LRAC in the long run. Below this, lights out.
And the break-even point.
The break-even point is where the firm earns normal profit.
Okay, I need to pause you there. Normal profit. To a non-economist, break-even sounds like you made zero money. You worked all year and got nothing. Why would a firm stay in business if they just break even?
This is a classic stumbling block. In accounting, profit is revenue minus explicit costs, so the bills you paid. In economics, we include implicit costs or opportunity costs. Normal profit includes the salary the entrepreneur could have earned if they worked for someone else, and the interest their capital could have earned in a bank.
Ah, okay, so if an economist says I made zero economic profit or normal profit, it means I actually covered my salary and my capital costs.
Exactly. You are doing just as well as your next best alternative. You are happy enough to stay in business. If you make anything above that, we call it super normal profit.
That makes so much more sense. So normal profit is the minimum needed to keep the firm in the game. Moving on to section 4.5, we know what the supply curve looks like. It's the MC curve. But what makes it move? We need to distinguish between a shift and a movement.
This is crucial for prelims questions. If the price of the good changes, we move along the curve. The curve itself doesn't move, you just slide up or down the line. But if other factors change, the entire curve shifts.
Let's look at the three determinants mentioned. First, technological progress.
Imagine a new machine is invented that makes weaving cloth faster and cheaper. This reduces the marginal cost for every unit. Visually, the MC curve drops down. Or you can think of it as shifting to the right. At the same price, the firm can now supply more because it's cheaper to make.
So tech progress equals rightward shift, more supply. Factor 2, input prices.
This connects directly to that 2025 GS1 question about offshore oil reserves and the 2014 question about industrial location near raw materials. If the price of oil, an input, goes up, the marginal cost of production rises. The curve shifts up or to the left. At the same price, the firm supplies less because it's more expensive to produce.
So expensive inputs equals leftward shift, less supply. And factor 3, unit tax. This is relevant for fiscal policy discussions.
A unit tax, like an excise duty of 5 rupees per box, literally adds to the cost of every unit. It raises the marginal cost curve by exactly the amount of the tax. So the supply curve shifts to the left, supply decreases.
And knowing this mechanism is key for understanding things like the GST impact or carbon taxes. Okay, section 4.6 takes us from the individual firm to the whole market. How do we get the market supply curve?
It's surprisingly simple arithmetic. It's called horizontal summation. If at a price of 10 rupees, firm A supplies 50 units and firm D supplies 30 units, the market supply is
80 units.
Exactly. 80 units. You just add up the quantities of all firms at that specific price.
Visually, in figure 4.13, the market curve, sucralism, looks flatter and wider than the individual curves.
Yes. And importantly, if the number of firms increases, new entry, the market supply curve shifts to the right. More firms means more supply.
We wrap up the technicals with section 4.7, price elasticity of supply.
Elasticity measures responsiveness. If the price goes up by 1%, by what percentage does supply increase? There is a really cool geometric method mentioned in the text, figure 4.14, that lets you spot elasticity just by looking at the graph.
How does that work?
Look at the straight line supply curve, extend it backwards. If it passes through the origin, 0, 0, the elasticity is exactly 1. Unitary elastic. If it intercepts the quantity axis, the x-axis, so it has a positive x-intercept, the elasticity is less than 1. It's inelastic.
Right.
If it intercepts the price axis, the y-axis, a positive y-intercept, the elasticity is greater than 1. It's elastic.
That is a handy trick. Origin equals 1, price axis equals elastic, quantity axis equals inelastic.
It's a great visual shortcut for the exam.
Now let's pivot. We've done the insert deep dive. We understand the ruthless rationality. But we promised to link this to the actual UPSC exam. Expert, you brought up some specific papers. Let's talk about the 2013 GS3 paper.
Right. There was a question. with a consideration towards the strategy of inclusive growth. The new Companies Bill 2013 has indirectly made CSR a mandatory obligation. Discuss the challenges. Now, think about this in the context of Chapter 4.
Chapter 4 says firms are ruthless profit maximizers. The Companies Bill says you must spend 2% on corporate social responsibility. There is a conflict there.
Exactly. And this is the beauty of the subject. The answer gives you the baseline theory. Firms want to maximize profit, P equals MC. They don't naturally want to spend on schools or hospitals if it doesn't increase revenue. The government, from a UPSC perspective, recognizes this market failure, or a gap in social welfare. So they introduce a policy, CSR, to force the firm to deviate from the pure profit-maximizing path.
So, as an aspirant, if you write an answer about CSR, understanding that it goes against the natural instinct of the perfectly competitive firm adds depth to your answer. You understand why the law was needed.
Precisely. The theory explains the resistance. The policy explains the correction. Similarly, look at the 2025 GS1 question regarding distribution of offshore oil reserves. Oil is a key input. Section 4.5.2 tells us exactly what happens when input availability changes.
If oil reserves are discovered or become cheaper to access, input prices drop.
MC falls. Supply curve shifts right. Production increases. This connects physical geography, where the oil is, to microeconomics, cost curves, to macro outcomes like GDP growth. You cannot silo these subjects.
And the 2014 question about industrial location.
Same logic. Why do steel plants look at your coal mines? To minimize input costs. Section 4.5. Minimizing costs is the only way to survive when you are a price taker. If you locate far away, your transport costs rise, your MC rises, and since you can't raise prices because the market price is fixed, you go bust. The geography is dictated by the economics of the cost curve.
That is a fantastic connection. It really shows that these graphs aren't just lines. They are decision-making tools for the real world.
That's the goal.
Okay, let's bring it home. We've covered a lot. Let's unpack the main takeaways before we sign off.
Sure. Number one, perfect competition means you are a price taker. You have no power. P equals AR equals MR. Number two, profit maximization occurs where P equals MC provided MC is rising. Three, the supply curve is the marginal cost curve, but only above the shutdown point. And four, shutdown. In the short run, you shut down if price is less than AVC. In the long run, if price is less than AC.
And why does this matter for the listener?
Because you cannot understand macroeconomics, inflation, GDP, fiscal policy, without understanding the micro foundations. How will a firm react to a tax? How will a firm react to a wage hike? The answer is in the supply curve we discussed today.
Powerful stuff. Friends, we hope this deep dive helped clarify those intimidating graphs in Chapter 4. A reminder, the detailed notes for this episode, focusing on these very graphs and the PYQs we discussed, are waiting for you on the public Telegram channel.
And if you want the model mains answers, specifically how to write that CSR answer, linking it to economic theory, join the private Telegram library. Just DM us.
Please, if you learned something new today, support us on Patreon. It keeps the lights on. A massive shout out again to our supporters. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Tell us, do you think the assumption of the ruthless firm is fair or outdated? We want to hear from you.
Keep questioning, keep connecting the dots.
And keep learning. We'll see you in the next deep dive. Okay, let's unpack this. Before we officially wrap up, I want to revisit that idea of the price taker one more time. I just feel like it's such a counterintuitive concept for people who grew up seeing brands everywhere. We are so used to Apple setting the price of an iPhone or Starbucks setting the price of a latte.
That's a great point. We live in a world of monopolistic competition or oligopoly where brands matter. But think about the commodities that underpin those brands. Think about the coffee beans inside that Starbucks cup or the lithium in that iPhone battery.
Right. The lithium miner doesn't set the global price of lithium.
Exactly. The lithium market is much closer to perfect competition. If the global price of lithium drops, the miner takes the hit. They are the price takers at the bottom of the supply chain. So while we consumers see price makers at the retail level, the backbone of the global economy, energy, food, metals, operates on these ruthless, perfect competition principles.
That really contextualizes it. It's not that the model is wrong, it's just operating at a different layer of the economy.
Precisely. And that's why understanding Chapter 4 is non-negotiable. You can't understand the price of your iPhone without understanding the price of the lithium inside it.
Well said. Okay, let's look at figure 4.8 again, the short-run supply curve. You mentioned the gap. I want to visualize this for the listener who might be driving or walking right now. Imagine a graph. You have the vertical axis, price, and horizontal axis, output. The supply curve isn't a continuous line. It's like a disjointed step.
Yes. Imagine you are tracing the vertical axis up from zero. That line on the axis itself is the supply curve for low prices. The firm supplies zero. Then you hit a specific height, the minimum AVC. Suddenly, the curve jumps horizontally to the right, onto the rising MC curve.
So it's like a cliff.
A cliff, yes. Or a switch. Below the price of X, the switch is OFF, zero supply. At price X or above, the switch is on in, you slide up the MC curve. That switch point is the shutdown point.
That visual really helps. The switch is OFF until you can cover your variable costs. Now let's talk about the 2016 GS2 paper. There was a question about self-help groups, SHGs, and microenterprises. How does this chapter apply to a tiny SHG making, say, pickles or pop pad?
Oh, that's a brilliant application. An SHG making pickles is likely operating in a perfectly competitive market locally. Their product is largely homogeneous. Pickle is pickle. They are price takers. They can't charge much more than the village market rate. So their survival depends entirely on their cost structure, from Section 4.3. Government schemes that provide cheap raw materials or subsidized loans are essentially lowering their fixed and variable costs.
Which shifts their supply curve to the right.
It shifts their supply curve right, but more importantly, it lowers their shutdown point. It makes them resilient. If the price of pickles drops, an unsubsidized firm might hit their shutdown point and close. The subsidized SHG has a lower shutdown point, so they stay in business. So when you answer a GS2 question on SHGs, you can argue that government support acts as a buffer against the shutdown condition, defined in microeconomic theory.
That is the kind of sentence that gets you extra marks. Buffer against the shutdown condition. I love that. It also connects to the technological progress determinant we discussed. Section 4.5.1. If the government gives the SHG a better pickle mixing machine.
That is technological progress.
Yeah.
It lowers the marginal cost. Visually, the MC curve shifts down and to the right. Result: they produce more pickles at the same market price. Their income rises. So technology transfer isn't just good. It is a direct manipulation of the firm's supply curve to increase output and stability.
I want to touch on one more technical aspect, elasticity. We talked about the geometric method, origin equals 1. But why does it matter if supply is elastic or inelastic? Who cares?
The finance minister cares. Let's go back to the unit tax from section 4.5.3. If the government taxes a good, the supply curve shifts left. We know that. But who pays the tax? The producer or the consumer? That depends entirely on elasticity.
Oh, this is the tax incidence concept.
Yes. If supply is perfectly inelastic, a vertical line, meaning the firm cannot change its output no matter the price, maybe perishable fish caught that day,
Right.
and you tax it. The firm eats the whole tax. They can't pass it on. If supply is perfectly elastic, horizontal, meaning the firm will flee the market. If they lose a penny of profit, the consumer ends up paying the whole tax.
So understanding the elasticity of the sector helps the government predict if a tax will hurt the business or hurt the customer.
Exactly. You can't just slap a tax on everything. You have to look at the slope of the supply curve.
This brings us back to the Companies Bill 2013 question.
Okay.
We talked about CSR, but what about the impact of CSR on the cost structure? If I have to spend 2% of my net profits on CSR, is that a fixed cost or a variable cost?
That is a fascinating nuance. Technically, it's a percentage of profit, not cost per unit, so it acts a bit differently than a unit tax. However, if we view it as a mandatory compliance cost to exist as a corporation, it acts like a fixed cost.
And does a change in fixed cost change the supply curve?
Wait for it. No!
I knew it. It's a trick question.
Oh, it is. Remember, the supply curve is the marginal cost curve. Marginal cost is the cost of the next unit. Does making one more chair increase your fixed cost, your CSR obligation? No. So a change in fixed cost does not shift the short-run supply curve. But it does raise the average cost, the AC. So while it doesn't change how much you produce today, it raises the break-even point. If the fixed costs, like CSR or regulatory compliance, get too high, the firm might not shut down today, but it might exit the industry in the long run because it can no longer make a normal profit.
That is a critical distinction for the exam. Variable cost change equals a supply curve shift. Fixed cost change equals no supply curve shift in the short run, but a potential exit in the long run.
Correct. And that explains why industries complain about overregulation. They aren't saying they can't produce today. They are saying the long-term average cost is becoming unsustainable for new investment.
This deep dive just keeps getting deeper. I want to briefly mention the input prices again, specifically related to labor. We talk about wages. If the MG and REGA scheme raises the rural wage floor, what happens to the supply curve of a textile factory in a rural area?
Labor is a variable input. If wages rise, variable costs rise, marginal cost rises. The supply curve shifts to the left. This means for the same market price, the factory produces less. Or, to produce the same amount, they need a higher price. This is cost-push inflation in action, derived straight from the NCERT graph.
So a social welfare scheme, MGN Regie, has a microeconomic consequence, a shift in the supply curve, which leads to a macroeconomic phenomenon, inflation.
You've connected GS2, governance and welfare, GS3, economics, and GS1, society. That is the holy grail of UPSC preparation.
And it all starts with understanding why the curve slopes up.
Yeah, expert.
Is there any scenario where the supply curve slopes down?
In the theory of the firm under perfect competition, no. Because of condition 2. Profit maximization only happens when MC is rising. However, if we leave perfect competition, say in an industry with massive economies of scale, like software or electricity distribution, the average cost drops as you get bigger, but that breaks the rules of Chapter 4. In Chapter 4, we assume diminishing returns eventually set in, pushing costs up.
Diminishing returns. That's why the MC curve looks like a Nike swoosh. It goes down a bit, then shoots up. Why does it shoot up?
Imagine a kitchen with one chef. You add a second chef, output doubles. Great. You add a third, still good. You add a 10th chef into the same small kitchen. They start pumping into each other. Knives get dropped. The oven is always full. The extra output from the 10th chef is very low, but you still have to pay them. So the marginal cost of that extra meal is huge. That is why the MC curve rises. Crowding, limited fixed factors.
And that rising cost is what stops the firm from producing infinite goods.
Exactly. The physical constraints of the real world eventually force the cost curve up, intersecting with the price line, telling the firm, stop. This is your limit.
It's poetic in a way. The math reflects the physical reality of too many cooks in the kitchen.
Economics always reflects reality if you look closely enough.
Before we close, let's do a quick rapid fire on the time period, short run versus long run. The text says, it is not advisable to define short run and long run in terms of, say, days, months, or years. Why not?
Because it's functional, not chronological. For a street food vendor, the long run might be 1 week. In 1 week, he can buy a new cart, change his fixed input. For a nuclear power plant, the short run might be 10 years. You can't just build a new reactor overnight. So short run equals at least one input is fixed, like the factory size. Long run equals all inputs are variable. You can build a new factory.
So if I can fire everyone and sell the building, I'm in the long run. If I'm stuck with the building but can fire people, I'm in the short run.
A bit ruthless, but yes, that's the definition.
Fits the theme of the episode, ruthless rationality. Okay, we have truly squeezed every drop of insight out of Chapter 4. From the nightmare of being a price taker, to the geometric tricks of elasticity, to the specific links with the Companies Act and oil reserves.
It's been a journey.
A reminder to our listeners, this isn't just about memorizing P equals MC. It's about building a mental model of how the world works. When you read the newspaper tomorrow, look for the supply curve shifting. Look for the firms shutting down because P is less than AVC. It's happening all around you.
And if you can articulate that in your exam answers, referencing the rising limb of the SMC or the shutdown condition, you distinguish yourself from the generalist. You become the specialist.
That's the goal. Simplified UPSC by PPP is here to help you make that jump. Again, check the Telegram for the notes. Hit the Patreon if you can. Thank you, expert, for guiding us through the curves.
My pleasure.
And thank you, listener, for diving deep. Until next time.